Knight to b6 going after Hikaru's queen, and Hikaru goes back queen to b3, and now knight f to d5. And this is a very, very rare situation in the world or in chess history where a world champion is playing in a tournament. But this is the actual clash between world number 1 and world number 2. Magnus Carlsen being the highest-rated player, and Hikaru being the second highest-rated player in the world. G5 knight to c4 by Hikaru, going after the rook, and Magnus goes G captures on h4, offering that rook on a5. And it wouldn't be that great of an idea to capture it because H captures on g3, the position opens up completely and not a lot for you to do. Now f3 will fall victim to queen to c5 with check, and there's not all that much you can do here. For example, you go king to h1, knight to e3, g2 is coming. I mean, this is, it's a beautiful, but of course that will never happen. Even the great Magnus missed when he allowed Hikaru all of this. And maybe you haven't seen it then, but now I'm sure you see it just for fun. You know, have a few seconds, I mean. Wow, rook to b6. Look at this. Beautiful. The knight cannot capture. If knight captures, then you just capture with check. And after the king moves, you just capture on b6. And that's it. White is completely winning. And if you don't capture, what else do you play? If you don't capture with the knight, you could capture with the rook, which is what was played in the game. But now c8 queen, and you cannot stop promotion. Queen to c8 is a very, very difficult move to meet. It's very, very hard. Pawn to f3 doesn't really do all that much. In fact, it doesn't do anything, because if you play pawn to f3, you can go for bishop captures on c2, and then you get the h3 square. Or you can even go queen to h3, because if you ever capture here, then queen captures on g3, and after knight g4, you are getting checkmated. So after c8, Queen Magnus resigned, and a beautiful, beautiful victory for Hikaru Nakamura, who won his round 1 game in classical format, and now he takes down Magnus Carlsen in Armageddon here. So okay, you don't get the full 3 points, but still you win the matchup. And if Magnus is, looking to win the tournament, which I'm sure he is, as this is his native Norway, he will have to look for chances to beat Hikaru with white, hopefully in classical for him, if not at least in Armageddon. H captures on g3 by Magnus, and now bishop to d5, attacking the bishop on a8. Magnus trades, we have captures, and knight to e3. Again, g2 is definitely a threat, so rook to g1 and pawn to h4. Things are not looking great for Hikaru here, who just plays pawn to c4, opens up the queen, and Magnus should just calm everything down with pawn to f6, defend that e5 pawn, and just continue attacking on the king's side. But he doesn't. He played queen to d4 here, offered a queen trade, and Hikaru very happily accepted. Magnus played bishop back to a8, and he invites Hikaru to capture on a5, which he does. And that is the way to play. Knight captures on a5. And now the situation on the king's side is so intense that Magnus should just ignore that knight. He should still just play h. He captures on g3 and continue the attack. But he went b, captures on a5, and now Hikaru gets a moment's rest. He plays pawn to e4. Again, queen to d2 is the most precise way to play. But okay. So, rook to a5 and the bishop back to b3. And okay, this is a much nicer diagonal for the bishop with the king being on the king's side. That is pawn to e5 and knight back to c2. We have pawn to h5 by Magnus and pawn to h4. We have knight to g4. Here again, maybe a missed opportunity a little bit. We have knight to a 3-pawn to g5, which is attacking Hikaru's king side, but also weakens his own king side a little bit. And Hikaru goes knight to c4. He goes after the rook. Now, interestingly, f3 looks like it can't be played due to queen c5 check. And now what do you play? King h1 and bishop to b7. The knight can't really be captured due to the g5 pawn being so weak. After queen to d2, you can actually play this, but good luck calculating all of this. I mean, we're below 3 minutes on the bid. We have captors, and now pawn to d6. We have rook to b8 by Magnus. Here, king to f6, and Magnus is still winning. But yeah, good luck finding that. For example, king f6, c5, you're just going to play king e6, and there's no way to further advance anything. c6, you don't care. You just capture, and of course, pawn to c7, you still don't care. That pawn is not going anywhere. So after d6, Magnus played rook to b8, which is dropping the winning advantage. And now, after Hikaru played rook to b1, Magnus can still defend with rook to c8. It's again a very weird decision that Magnus does not play. As now the pawn is attacked twice, there's no defending it, and if you play d7, then you go rook to d8. And then, for example, if rook to b7 you capture on c4, you don't allow the pawns to connect, and that's it.